This video is 2 weeks in the making. Why? Well, I remember I commented on a video by a YouTuber named Coldcrashpictures, and well, you'll just see it. It's a Zilla video by some rando, so let's get into it. Now, my beautiful, beautiful subscribers, what we're going to be going into is Coldcrashpictures video called Sherlock and Awe Godzilla 1998. And it's got 1.2k views, posted 2 weeks ago, and it's by some guy who really doesn't understand why a lot of people don't like Godzilla 98, but he wants to say how much he likes it, so you shouldn't like it and like it back. Yeah, it's just a bunch of really bad arguments, fizzled with a little bit of appeal to emotion. So let's get into it. To start off with, at the start of the video, he's playing the the Go Go Godzilla song by the band everyone knows. Everyone knows the song, and I'm watching this. I'm thinking to myself, why are you doing this? Why is it that you're putting this song in the background? You don't need to put Go Go Godzilla in the background of a Godzilla video. I mean, we all know it's a Godzilla video. You don't need to go this overboard. It makes you look stupid. But it makes them look even more stupid because the whole beginning of this video is just an argumentum ad passionis. It's a logical fallacy. It's an appeal to the emotion to win an argument. And even though he could probably claim, oh well, this wasn't an argument, it's just me talking about how much I like the film. No, you have a biasy, and then you're trying to appeal to the emotions of Godzilla fans to be like, okay, settle down, guys. I like Zilla. Please don't be mad at me that you disagree with my opinion vehemently. And my reasoning behind this is because not only is he playing the Go Go Godzilla music in the background, but then he says, oh, I totally can identify the Showa, Heisei, and Millennium Godzillas, and then I'm just gonna stop him right there. It's like, oh wow, oh my goodness, you can actually know what Godzilla movies are from what era. It's not like there's so many different sites that categorize the Godzilla movies based on their era. Oh man, I mean, like you're on Twitter too. It's not like there's a bunch of Godzilla Twitter pages that do that for you. Oh man, and I mean, like, you've got a scene from Godzilla vs. Hedorah, one of the Heisei Godzilla, and then you've got the Giragoji Godzilla from Godzilla vs. Megaguirus. Oh man, oh wow, it's not really like, oh man, there's so many different Millennium Godzillas. There's one Heisei Godzilla that everyone knows is Godzilla, and then there's quite a few Showa Godzilla. Oh man, I mean, well, you say that, but then you completely mess up something later on, which I'll get into. But this is such a stupid thing, and even funnier is that he tries to be pretentious, and then he points out what are obvious flaws or what he considers faults in the Japanese Godzilla series, and then say, oh well, I love it so much. It's like, you don't need to say that. You can say that without having some stupid sketch in the middle of it. But it's just an appeal to emotion and be like, oh well, guys, I've watched the Godzilla movies. I know what eras they're from. Please don't attack me, even though I really don't know what I'm talking about. And then he then like almost any 98 fan will say, it's like, well, it's a reimagining, it's a remake, and then he's like, and then it's all about nostalgia. All you Godzilla fans, you're just nostalgic of the Godzilla movies you loved. And it's funny coming from someone like him, where he graduated college not too long ago. I mean, it's not that many Godzilla movies that have come out in recent years. So, I mean, aside from 2014, 2000, and then if you were kind of really into Godzilla, Tokyo SOS, and then after that looking for some of the older films, you're really not gonna find a lot of people just blinded by nostalgia, and a lot of those people who watched the show and Heisei films before then are pretty old by this point and had reason to not enjoy 98. And then he's like, I know you guys are just articulating opinions, so let me articulate my own. And then he says, did I go to college or what? I mean, based on your own inclinations and biases, I assume you went to Berkeley or something like that, because, yeah, you really don't know how to make arguments, because you look pretty stupid here. And let's just go in. He talked about the title sequence. Yeah, that's okay. And then he says that 2014 is a parrot of that because they couldn't come up with anything original. That's funny, because the last time I recall, starting off Godzilla movie with nuclear test, and it was distributed in America. Yeah, I thought the 1955 Godzilla film, Gigantus the Fire Monster, if I recall, the Americanized version started off with nuclear test. Oh, wow. Yeah, 2014 was paying homage to the Godzilla series, while 98 is apparently really original with how it portrayed it, because it was over a moderately good score. Yeah, wow, you don't know what you're talking about, because that was already done in a Godzilla movie in 1955, the second Godzilla movie to be more specific. And then, he talks about the first act of Godzilla crossing the Pacific, and he talks about, how it's well done because it's ominous and moody, because it's the first opening sequences of the film. Yeah, you mean like Jurassic Park, which came out not too long before, and even though Jurassic Park didn't have as big of an opening sequence, keeping everything moody and mysterious, the raptor sequence in Jurassic Park is very similar. I mean, we don't really know what anything looks like. We have a good idea, and it ends up killing someone. And really, what Godzilla is doing in this first sequence is just on a bigger scale. And it's also kind of comparable to the fact that the American military knows they're hunting something, and then they see a footprint, and they step in a footprint. That's kind of similar to the Lost World Jurassic Park, where they're hunting the T-Rex, and the guy steps in the T-Rex footprint, and then he's like, oh wow, this thing is really big. That's moving on. And then he talks about, a lot of people had an issue with the running gag of not being able to say Nick Totopoulos' name right. And he's like, well, I'll give anyone a Sacagawea $1 if anyone can remember the name of Aaron Taylor Johnson's character. He's Lieutenant Ford Brody. So, yes, I would like you to give me that Sacagawea $1. I would love $1 from you. And if anything, I know you didn't sign any legal agreements. I understand that. But if anything, if I want to extort anything from you, I would love that $1, please. So, that was a bet you made, to everyone watching the video. So, I like that payment, please. And then he talks about about Godzilla coming ashore, and how the marketing campaign had kept Godzilla in shadows, and we didn't get to see the full design in its glory. And once again, he says 2014 was kind of copying this, and that's interesting because 54 did the exact same thing. If I remember correctly, I mean, like, I watched the film quite regularly, and 54 did the same thing. And also, wait, 89, The Return of Godzilla, another American-released Godzilla movie, mind you, did the same thing. It's almost like it's something that's been done before in a Godzilla series, in 2014 is paying an homage to it, just like how 98 did it. And, okay, this is funny, because he then goes on to say, unlike the 98 design, which is so much different, the 2014 design looks like the 1954 design. And I mean, like, if anyone, I'm sorry, all I have to say is that, if someone wanted to make a Lucille reference here and just kind of felt like a Negan at this moment and really just wanted to Negan him, I completely agree with you. I have nothing against that opinion, because wow, I mean, it's not like you can go on Google Images and look at the differences between the 2014 and 54 design. I mean, the only real difference is that 2014 is a different color, different feet, different tail, different head, different spines, as well as a completely different posture and roar. Yeah, 2014 is totally like the 54 Godzilla. And then we get into some Emmerich praise, some Emmerich wank, and because of hindsight bias, because it's like, oh wow, look what Emmerich did, and then look what 2014 did with all that stuff. It's like, wow, it's not like everyone knows that the reason why 2014 wasn't as marketed as much and wasn't as talked about as much is because, well, yeah, 98 was kind of a disaster for the fan base, and it was engrossed heavily, but then the marketing crashed because the toys, books, and all that stuff wasn't selling because everyone knew the ending of the film. And we can talk about design for a little bit. You should also know that Toho really didn't technically approve the design. They had an idea. The Toho execs were skeptical. However, Emmerich pretty much said that it was either we got this design or you're not going to have someone to work on the film. So Toho really didn't have any choice in that matter. Yeah, pretty much blackmailing them. And not to mention the fact that Toho had specific kind of parameters, we should say, for Godzilla and his sort of behavior, which Emmerich goes completely against, the atomic breath being one and his indestructibility being another, as well as his atomic origins and other ones like, yeah, Godzilla doesn't eat people and stuff like that. And I'm just thinking to myself, I'm like, you probably don't know any of this. And I mean, you're sort of like a quote-unquote film buff because you went to film school, mother. You don't go into any research or give any examples for anything because you have a complete bias here and you're a liar, and your sway kind of already tells me how you're going to react when it comes to making reviews and stuff like that. And then we go into the helicopter sequence, which he says is the coolest chase scene ever made. Yeah, it's just like pretty much a cross between all the Lost World sequences, the Open Valley sequence, and the T-Rex chase scene, except we got helicopters. Oh man, oh boy, oh man, oh yeah. It's not really like it was already done in films prior to it, but you know, whatever. And then we talk about Godzilla laying eggs. He doesn't even mention how people had an issue with that, wondering why Godzilla's laying eggs, even though he's had quote-unquote kids. He's never laid an egg before, so he doesn't say, yeah, it's kind of understandable why people don't like that. And then he says, oh, do you think YouTube will censor this because of an asexual gender-swapping dinosaur? I just gotta sit there and be like, I don't even know your name, Cold, but I'm just gonna call you Cold. Your political sway. We already YouTube's got your back. Don't worry. You're being supportive of that kind of thought. You're not having wrong think, so you don't have to worry about being censored because you're talking about an asexual gender swapping iguana because he's not a dinosaur. Yeah, yeah, of course. And then it's kind of funny because then he mentions the plot point how Nick got kicked off of the team in terms of the trying to find and kill Godzilla and all that, and he says, oh yeah, the military just wasn't having it from him. Did you watch the film? Because if I remember correctly, the reason why they kicked him out was because they assumed that he gave Audrey the tapes, and then Audrey released the tapes, and that's what they saw and assumed he had something to do with it, and they kicked him off for releasing privately owned information. But then again, you're not too happy with the military and the current government as it is, so I assume you felt Nick was that Audrey was completely in the right for doing such, but whatever. And then it's 7 minutes and 25 seconds in, and he finally brings up Jurassic Park with the final sequence with the baby Godzillas. It's not really like they already were copied a bunch of things from Godzilla to begin with, and why? You shouldn't have even included it at that point because you missed out a bunch of other sequences from Jurassic Park that are so similar. But I mean, at least you're honest in that department to an extent. And then we go into the second chase scene. And then people always talk about how, oh, Godzilla 98 similar to Jurassic Park. But he says, oh, well, Godzilla vs. Destroyer took a scene from Aliens. And Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah took an aesthetic from Back to the Future. And The Matrix was had a scene that was copied in Final Wars. Well, with Aliens... Yeah, I'll probably give you that. Except the fact is that they're using a flamethrower, and the other guy was using like a minigun, so you know, it's not really like it's kind of like that's kind of how flamethrowers look. And then the Back to the Future example, it's not real. It's not like during that time that was kind of the aesthetic for future technology. I mean, we should also talk about Star Trek. And then, oh man, the background for Star Wars, like the Millennium Falcon. Oh man, that's very similar to Back to the Future too. And then the Matrix scene from Final Wars. If I recall, the Matrix took a lot of inspiration from anime, and I've seen a bunch of anime do the exact same thing. So, I don't know what kind of cherry-picked examples you want to bring up, and how much of an intellectually dishonest person you are. But good try though. And then you try to say that, all Godzilla movies need is character population, because all the characters in 98 had goals instead of just survival. And, well, let's think about this. The main character we follow, and kind of our main protagonist, is a scientist who gets kicked out of the military operation. While the main guy we follow in 2014 is a soldier who goes on missions to keep close to the action and get to his wife. And not to mention the fact that the threat of the Mutos and Godzilla in 2014 was a lot greater, because not only were these monsters way bigger, but the fact is that they were indiscriminately killing a bunch of people. So, yeah, I wonder why a lot of these people were focused with survival. It's not really like giant monsters killing you is a very, very, very important. While 98, Zilla was barely destroying anything because he was running away from the military the entire time. But, you know. And then, oh man. He also talks about, Godzilla, and how, he's like, oh man, this is not to get painful to look at. I'm sorry. And then he tries to talk about Godzilla and how, oh yeah, well, Godzilla's got his origins similar in 98 and all the other films, and he's like, I don't understand how the Toho Godzilla aesthetic works because he's a dinosaur. Well, this looks more like a dinosaur. So you're confusing the Showa and Heisei origins, because the Showa origins is, if I recall, he was awakened by atomic test, while the second Heisei Godzilla, when we saw Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah, was a dinosaur that was mutated by atomic tests. After, not only did that Godzilla appear in Godzilla 89, but, he also got transported, which is why they thought he was gone. Oh. Wow. I'm sorry. Wow. It's not like, this research is very hard to find. And we should also mention that, he says, this is a reboot. I thought reboots were all about bucking tradition. Oh, you mean like Ghostbusters then? Yeah, that bucked a lot of tradition. Oh, man, yeah. I mean, I love to pull excuses out of nowhere because I really can't come up with an actual argument to support my views. And then, he also mentions how, in GMK, according to Wikipedia, oh yeah, Wikipedia, they kept Godzilla's traditional posture because of, back strain on the suit actor. Yeah. I mean, oh, wow. It's really funny that you mentioned that Wikipedia article, because I actually went in and looked at all the sources. There's no source that states that exactly, and even the Japanese source that they have, if you translate it, it doesn't even mention that. So I really wonder who, where that one line comes from. And he talks about the atomic breath, where he's like, oh yeah, I was disappointed about not having the atomic breath, but 2014 wasn't better for it. And then he tries to compare the Mutos to Batra and Mothra, and I gotta say, I never knew Batra had looked like that, or looked similar to that. And I didn't know Mothra looked like a weird alien bat creature. Wow, yeah. I mean, this is another Lucille moment, because then he outright lies and says that once Godzilla uses his atomic breath for a Deus Ex Machina, which it was more really to build up tension, because people weren't sure if he was going to be like the actual Godzilla, because once again, people were scared because of 1998. But moving on. He says that, oh yeah, the atomic breath, once he uses it, it automatically kills the Mutos. And then he shows two examples of it, despite the fact that the first example was Godzilla shooting his atomic breath at the Muto, knocking down the Muto, and then fighting the other Muto, the flying Muto, which actually dies because Godzilla slammed his tail into the Muto, which impaled him on one of the buildings, which crushed Godzilla. And then he shoots directly into the Muto's mouth, which was more effective than just hitting the Muto with the atomic breath, which then kills the second Muto. So, I mean, yeah, you're blatantly lying here again. As well as the novelization, which came out the same year, like not too long after the movie came out, points to this. But yeah, you want to ramp up the 98 marketing, but failed to mention the fact that 2014 didn't have as good of marketing because people were scared of what would happen if it went like 1998. And yeah, it's so sad, so sad. And then he goes on to say, "Well, I'm willing to pull on to take the olive branch if we can admit that 98 at least stands as a Godzilla film, because I mean the 54 film on Wikipedia was a unintentional remake of the Beast from 20,000 Fathoms, and I mean a lot of people who defend 98 bring up the Beast meme that Godzilla fans bring up, and I just think to myself, well, where was this ever cited that their influence was the Beast from 20,000 Fathoms? Because if I recall, it was King Kong, which is one of the main reasons why they decided to bring King Kong back, because if the Beast from 20,000 Fathoms was the big kind of crux of Godzilla, then why don't they bring back the Beast for a remake to fight Godzilla instead of King Kong? Or hell, in Godzilla Raids Again, why did they just use the Beast instead of Anguirus? Because if it was supposed to be a remake of the Beast, why didn't they use the Beast and to get popularity? But the amount of intellectual dishonesty here is so sad. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about Cold Crash Productions' little analysis and review of Godzilla 1998. You are intellectually dishonest. You lie multiple times. You twist a lot of words and cherry pick examples for your own gain because you obviously have a bias. And you say you're a Godzilla fan. Well, yeah, you probably like Godzilla, but don't try to say that, oh, you're like us because you like Godzilla, but you also like 98. Because the fact is that people who are Godzilla fans who like 98 are fine, and a lot of people who don't like 98 like the American Godzilla series. Because one, Godzilla acts more like Godzilla, and he also has his atomic breath. And you know why Godzilla in that series acts more like Godzilla than Zilla does in 98? Well, it's because the writers decided, hey, kids like the atomic breath. Hey, we want to make it feel more like Godzilla. And my proof is that I actually saw one of the writers from the series in a Godzilla 98 group actually state what the intentions were for some of these writers. So, yeah, you're a liar. Don't lie and you won't get called out. See you guys.